Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Mary, and I'm an employee support supervisor. And today your speaker is Anka. She's an employee support officer, and she'll be going through the employee portal and payslip. So over to you, Anka.
Thank you, Mary. Hello. So in this webinar, we will discuss, just one moment. We will discuss how to log in and what you should do if you are locked out of your account or need to reset your login details. Next will be a brief overview of your portal. Then we will move on to the functions of your portal, just reviewing sections of the portal and highlighting what you may find on these pages. We will also discuss the P45 and new starter declaration and their purposes. Then we will move on to the later part of the webinar and discuss the payslip breakdown. This is a close look at your invoice reconciliation and payslip, as well as discussing factors that may affect your net payment. First, to locate your employee portal, you will need to start by searching giantpay.co.uk. Once on this page, you will need to select login, then umbrella employee. Please do not select agency or client, as this will redirect you to an incorrect page. On the mobile side, you will simply need to select the hamburger sign to the top right hand as highlighted in the example. Once you have selected umbrella employee, you will be directed to your login page. You will need simply to submit your username and password and then complete the CAPTCHA process. Our CAPTCHA process is an improved safety measure which ensures that computer robot is not attempting to access your profile. Once completed, please press login. Currently, we are using a two-stage login process for your added security. As you see, you are asked to select how you'd like to receive an authentication code. This is either via SMS or email. Once you have made your choice, please allow up to 1 minute for the code to be sent. Just a quick note on this. If the request is made multiple times, our system will continue to generate new codes. Once a new code is generated, the previous codes are becoming invalid for the safety reasons. So please be patient with the process. Once you receive this code, please enter this in the verification form, and this will grant access to your portal. Once logged in, you will find your home page. The menu options are accessible by selecting the hamburger sign to the left-hand corner. To the center, you will find your key notifications. We will look closely at these in a minute. On the top bar, you will find your name and employee ID number. And right next to this are a few options. The first is the refer a friend icon. We are currently offering £50 for any referrals that are made. The chat bubble emoticon, which basically will take you to your messages. You can use these options to communicate with the ESO team. Next to this is your profile and logout options. And lastly, you will find the live chat option at the bottom. This will connect you to the first available operator to address any queries you may have. This is a new feature providing quick access to the support team. The average response time is currently 9 seconds, so this is a convenient and fast method of communication. Taking a closer look at your key notification, you will notice that your first shown is your last pay date with a link to your latest payslip. Next, your assignment end date. Use this as a tool to track your current assignment and to ensure that your end date is up to date and accurate. Following this is a display of your tax code and accompanying description. Any changes to your tax code will also show here. Sorry for this. Then we move on to your pension status. Next, we will move to your holiday pay. It is a confirmation of your holiday pay scheme and an explanation of what your holiday pay scheme means. Then we are getting to your pension status. If you are auto-enrolled into the Nest pension scheme, which is about 90 days after joining Giant, you can view this here. Lastly, it is the confirmation of your Giant Advantage status. If opted in, it will state so here. Giant Advantage is a bonus benefit scheme available to you. You are able to participate in salary sacrifice schemes such as car leasing and cycle to work scheme, and you can also opt in for retail discount vouchers. Moving on to the menu items, our first selection is dedicated to entering timesheets. If your agency uses data exchange with Giant, you will not need to submit timesheets on our portal. For this reason, when you access this page, you will find a message advising this, as on the right top example. Data exchange is an agreement between your agency or client and Giant to share timesheet information. When an agency uses data exchange, they will send a payment file with your days or hours worked, and we will raise the invoice using an automated process. On the other hand, if your agency or client is not using the data exchange, you will have access to enter your timesheets. An entered timesheet generates an invoice to your agency or client, so it effectively bills them for the hours or days that you have submitted. Timesheets are also important to our allocations process, as any funds received will need to be matched to a corresponding timesheet. Entering timesheets, at the top of the page, there is a hyperlinked help icon. These icons are present on most of pages throughout your employee portal. They are great visual aids and are useful in providing information and guidance about the relevant page. On this page, the icon explains how to raise your timesheets correctly, so if you ever need guidance, please use this as a reference. To enter your timesheets, you will start by selecting the relevant week ending date. This brings up the assignment details. If you're working on multiple assignments at the same time, please ensure that you have selected the correct assignment. The contractual rate for the assignment will display in the rate box. Again, if for any reason you are working at a different rate, for example, you are entering overtime or simply work at multiple rates, please ensure that you have inputted the right rate. There is a box for purchase order number. You will only need to add a purchase order number if you have been provided one by the agency or client. Otherwise, you can ignore this box. Lastly, you will need to enter your days or hours worked. For those working on a daily rate, please ensure that you have added to your timesheets also the hours. Due to recent legislation, hours worked are a mandatory part of itemized payslip. For this reason, you must provide total hours as well as days when submitting your timesheet. Without the total hours, the timesheets will not register. Any timesheets that are submitted will display immediately on your payslip on your payment tracker. So please use this tool to check the timesheets that have been added correctly. Next slide, it is the payments selection, payslips. At the top of the page, there is a video icon which provides a detailed explanation of your payslip. Should you struggle at any time to understand your payslip illustration, please use this for a step-by-step analysis of what the sections of your payslip mean. This has become a popular addition as it addresses frequent queries concerning the payslip. Your P60 for the previous financial year will be available above your payslips as shown here. You will also find a useful feature that allows you to download all your payslips and P60 at once. Your payslips will be found in chronological order, and it is available to you 24/7. The next option under your payments is the payment tracker. The payment tracker is useful for tracking when your payments are received and when they enter the payroll process. You can also view all week ending dates processed to date in a table form. This may be simpler in terms of visibility. The payment tracker is also useful for checking when an invoice was submitted to your agency or client. And you will also be able to view any credit notes raised by Giant. This could be at the request of your agency, for example, requesting a deduction on your payment, or our finance team can correct any overpayments made. Next, under your payments is the holiday pay section. Again, at the top of the page is an icon that will explain how to request holiday pay on this page. This option is only available to those that have opted for accrued holiday pay, which means that holiday pay is retained from the assignment income, set aside and processed when requested for leave taken. On this page, you'll find a total number of hours available and its translation as a total holiday pay balance. To request a holiday pay, simply select the week ending date and then input the number of hours you would like, then press submit. Holiday pay is accrued on an annual basis and should be claimed within the year that is accrued. If you wish to claim holiday pay, we ask that you submit your request at least 3 days before your payroll. The final page under payments is for requesting advances. An advance is a payment in advance of your normal pay date. To request an advance, you will need to have an authorized and pending timesheet to be processed. Typically, we will request a promise to pay from your agency, and this will form the basis for your advance. We can also process an advance based on funds allocated on your payment tracker, so it is a good option if you ever need an urgent same-day payment. You can request a specific value for an advance or maximum of amount, which will be calculated by the ESO team. Also, there is a charge of £35 for this service, and we will reclaim this from the advanced total when your next payroll is processed. The next section relates to your contract documents. Here you'll find all relevant HR documents for your employment. These can be downloaded for your records. Also, you can view your assignment schedules here. The last menu option is for billable expenses. Just like timesheets, if your agency uses data exchange with Giant, you will not need to use this option, as we will receive an instruction to pay your expenses. If your agency or client do not use the data exchange system, they will need an invoice before paying any agreed expenses to Giant. To generate this invoice, please begin by selecting the week ending date. Again, the assignment will populate automatically. Please ensure that it is the correct one in case you have more than one assignment. Then enter a purchase order number, only if it is relevant to you. Then select the expense type and add the total value in the amount box. Please be aware that as a VAT registered company, any invoices processed via Giant will have an additional VAT value of 20% added on top. For example, if you need to bill an expense of £100, you will need to submit an expense request for £120 to your agency. The £20 accounts for VAT. Therefore, if you are submitting billable expenses, please ensure that your agency client have been advised on this additional VAT value. Should you need to communicate with your employee support team, you can send a message via the Giant portal. Under your messages, you can find a history of all communication between yourself and Giant. To send a message, first select the chat bubble icon displayed on the right-hand top corner, as described previously. You will find the option to send a message. Select this, then compose your query. The paperclip can be used to attach any documents on any formats. To the left-hand corner, you can also find a request for a reference to be emailed to you. So that's how you can contact with the ESO team. If you forgot your password, you will need to use the forget password option found below the username and password on the login page. You should use the forget password option if you do not remember your username and password, or both. Start by inputting your employee ID, then enter your email and date of birth. This will trigger a forgot password email to the primary email on file. Please follow the instruction in the email by inputting your user ID and reference and adding new username and password details. Basically, you'll have to create a brand new username and password. Once completed, please reset login and login. If you have been locked out of your account, you will need to use get login rather than forgot password. You will usually find that you have been locked out after failing to enter the correct credentials numerous times. You will know that you have been locked out of your account when you cannot get past the employee ID page under the forgot password option. Under get login, input your employee ID and the reset form will become available to you instantly. Complete this form choosing a new username and password and submit the reset details. Once done, please log in. Now, moving on to the payslip section of the webinar, I would like to begin by discussing the P45. A P45 is provided by your previous employer and provides Giant with the relevant information concerning your year-to-date earnings and your tax code. providing a P45 is essential during the onboarding stage, as it helps Giant to determine how taxes will be applied to your pay. If for any reason you were unable to provide a P45 to Giant during onboarding, we would have completed a new starter declaration with you. This is formally known as P46. With the new starter declaration, you are asked to confirm 3 statements. If this is your only job during this tax year, this is statement A. If this is now your only job, but you have worked elsewhere before, statement B, or statement C if you are earning some income elsewhere, for example, via another employer or pension. Lastly, is a D0 tax code, which can be put in place when you have made no selections. Typically, however, Giant will simply apply the week 1 or month 1 tax code if there is no selection made. Each statement has its own meaning when it relates to the tax code that will be applied on your payments processed. As you can see on the screen, your payslips are available via the Giant Employee Portal 24/7 for your ease. You can find this via the Payments and then Payslips option on the Employee Portal. The payslip provides you with an itemized explanation of your payroll. Here it is an overview of the entire payslip. Your payslip is comprised of a few features. Firstly, to the top right, you will find your personal information. This provides details on your pay date, tax code, NI number, amongst other information. Next, it is the invoice reconciliation. This presents the assignment income received from the agency or client and explains how Giant reached your taxable gross pay. Following this is the payslip. This illustrates the calculation of PAYE tax and employee national insurance contribution, amongst other employee deductions. We will go through this further. Lastly, it is information on Giant's tax references. If you ever need to contact HMRC for tax code queries, you can view our PAYE reference number on your payslip. Here it is a concentrated look at the invoice reconciliation. Firstly, you are presented with the week ending date being processed along with the rate paid and the total value received. This is called the assignment income. Next follows the employer's cost. This includes the employer's national insurance contribution at 13.8%, the apprenticeship levy at 0.5%, and other employment costs. As you see on the invoice reconciliation, the employer's pension contribution is also shown here as it is retained from the assignment income. After the employer's cost is retained, we reach the taxable gross pay. This is the amount subject to PAYE tax and NI. As you see, the employee gross pay from the invoice reconciliation, it's carried forward to the payslip. This is illustrated as the basic pay and holiday pay. From the employee gross pay, we will calculate your employee's tax, national insurance, and any other employee deductions such as pension, any attachment of earnings Giant may receive. After these deductions have been made, the net value is arrived at. These are the factors that may affect your net pay: tax codes and changes, supplementary or additional payments, monthly payroll in a weekly pay cycle. First of all, please be advised that tax is calculated when payroll is processed, not when the work is completed. In this financial year, the standard tax code is 1250L. This provides a weekly tax-free allowance of £240 and a monthly tax-free allowance of £1,041. To calculate your monthly or weekly tax allowance, you simply take the numeric values. For example, for the 1250L tax code, the L is basically for standard. So this would be £12,500. Then divide this by 12 months if you are being paid monthly, or 52 weeks if you are being paid weekly. The tax-free allowance relates to the amount not subject to tax deductions, and anything above this will become taxable at the appropriate rate. We are able to receive tax codes from HMRC. This is called a P6 notification. A P6 notification can change your tax code or tax-free allowance. This can be a reduction or increase in allowances. a P6 notification will override any prior information held. So if you provide a P45 or P6 is reviewed and received from HMRC, we will apply the tax code from the P6 as it comes directly from HMRC. Our payroll department download the P6 notifications every Tuesday. So if you speak with HMRC on Wednesday, the P6 will not be received until the following Tuesday. Once downloaded, it will be applied in the next available payroll. Cumulative tax code allows Join to take your year-to-date earnings into consideration when processing your payroll. Using the diagram, you can see in the first chart that we start with a weekly tax allowance of £240. This is based on the tax code of 1250L tax code. With a cumulative tax code, any unused tax allowance will be carried over to the next payment. So, for example, if you were to miss payroll in 1 week, the unused tax allowance will carry over to the next week. Referring back to the diagram, the first week's tax allowance of £240 was not used. So for the following week, it is added to the tax-free total. If the tax allowance is not used again, the cumulative allowance of £480 plus the current week's tax-free allowance comes the total free into play. This will continue for how many weeks you do not receive payment. So on a cumulative tax code, if you go 10 weeks without receiving payment, you will eventually receive the benefit of 10 weeks multiplied by the £240 tax-free allowance, which produces a large tax allowance. And until you have used all tax-free totals, you will not see tax deductions. On a cumulative tax code, it is also possible to calculate tax adjustments. So if you're over deducted in tax in 1 week, and then the following week your tax may be readjusted, as we can take into consideration your year-to-date earnings against the tax paid to date. Where there is an imbalance according to HMRC calculator, we can make the necessary adjustments. On the other hand, though, if you have a non-cumulative tax code, with this tax code, we do not take into account previous earnings when calculating tax due. As you see, the weekly tax allowance of £240 is the default tax-free total for each payroll. So if you have a gap in your payment, you will not receive the benefit of an accrued tax allowance, as nothing adds on here. Therefore, if your year-to-date earnings indicate that you should be provided with a larger tax-free allowance, we would be unable to apply this, understanding that as we would not be able to consider any previous earnings. We would have to provide a tax allowance of £240, and anything above this would be subject to taxation. It is important to understand that the tax threshold as this will determine the percentage of tax that will be calculated in payroll for you. Highlighted in the text are the tax bands. An L tax code is the standard tax code. For example, 1250L tax code provides a standard annual allowance of £12,500. You can replace the L with a 0. Whereas a T tax code, it is a temporary tax code which applies, which typically means that the tax code is under review with HMRC. A K tax code is typically presented when you are predicted to earn over £100,000 in a tax year, or HMRC believe that you owe some tax. Supplementary pay run. So a supplementary pay run occurs when you are paid more than once in a tax period. For example, the tax runs from Saturday to Friday this financial year. Therefore, if you are being paid on Monday and again on Friday, you will experience a supplementary run on your second payroll. Using a standard tax code of 1250L as an example, you will be provided with £240 tax-free each week. When paid on Monday, your tax allowance is used and tax is calculated as normal. However, if you will be paid again in the same week on Friday, a supplementary run would occur whereby no tax allowance would be provided and all income would become subject to taxation. As more of the income becomes subject to tax, you may experience higher tax, employers and employees NI deductions. As advised previously, if on cumulative tax code, this should typically adjust itself in the future. If you receive a monthly payment in a weekly pay cycle, you may also experience higher tax deductions. If, for example, there is only a 3-week gap between your payments, you will have accumulated a 3-week tax-free allowance for your next payroll. If Giant then receive a month's payroll, in this example 5 weeks, the tax allowance, will be lower than it should be, as we will process 5 weeks of work against 3 weeks of tax allowance. This means more of the income will be subject to taxation, resulting in higher tax deductions and reduced net pay. The difference in tax allowances would be £720, 3 weeks of weekly allowances, as opposed to the monthly tax allowance of £1,041. If your agency or client will pay Giant on a monthly basis, please ensure that we have also you placed on a monthly pay type, so you can always receive the appropriate tax allowance. So from this presentation, we hope that you will take away the following points. As you log in, your key notification provide important information at first glance. Your payment tracker and payslips section are helpful in tracking your payments. There are useful links, videos, and icons on each page that will assist you with navigating the page in question. Our messaging system is and live chat option are available to communicate with your employee support team. Also, you can request advances and holiday pay very easy. We would like to highlight that your portal is accessible 24/7 and on the mobile website for the convenience. The P45 or New Starter declaration provided during onboarding are critical to establishing the correct tax code for you. The invoice reconciliation displays the employer's cost retained from the assignment income. All payslips are easily accessible via 24/7 via your portal. The payslip displays the PAYE tax code and national insurance deductions amongst other employee deductions. Also, a cumulative tax code takes into account year-to-date earnings, whilst a non-cumulative tax code does not. Also, your net pay may be affected by a supplementary run or monthly income being processed using a weekly pay cycle. I hope that this is useful for you. If you do have any other questions or queries, please do let us know. Thank you very much for your time and have a lovely day.
Okay. Ooh. Thank you, Anka. That was really helpful. And thank you all for your time today. We hope you found this session useful. That does conclude our webinar today. If you do have any feedback or suggestions on how we can improve the portal and features, please let us know by completing the survey after the webinar. And should you have any questions, please contact your support team via your employee portal or live chat on our website. Thanks again for joining. It was greatly appreciated and have a great day.